Hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Rupert Hughes, and today I'm delighted to bring you from Chengdu in West China the 2022 Hurun China Rich List, put out in association with our partners, the premium baijiu brand Hengchang Shaofang. And I particularly want to say thank you to Hengchang Shaofang because it's the fourth year on the trot that we're putting out the China Rich List in association with them. So thank you very much to our partners. Now, the China Rich List is a list of the most successful entrepreneurs in China based on their personal accumulated wealth. And the idea behind it is that we should then work backwards. The stories of these people should give us an idea as to what's going on in the Chinese economy today and the trends going forward as well. Now, you can think of it also like we're taking a photograph of the private sector of China, and then we put 24 photographs in a line, because that's how many years we've been doing the China Rich List. And because it's the same photographer, and that's the Hurun report, and you've got a lot of very good and useful comparative data there. So that's, I suppose, the value of the China Rich List. Now, what are the trends this year? Well, overall in the world, the economy's been having a tough time. You know, there's inflation, energy prices have been going up, America has put up the interest rates, there's the Ukraine-Russia war, and so on and so forth. So these things have combined to make the stock markets have a pretty bad year. So on average, they've been going down 20%. So how's that affected what we can see on the China Rich List? So on the list this year, we found just over 1,300 individuals with more than 700 million US dollars. And how does that compare against last year? Well, that's down in terms of individuals, 11%. In terms of their average wealth, down 18%. And in fact, 11% is probably some of the fastest drop that we've had pretty much since records began. But I need to caveat that because even though we've lost a lot of entrepreneurs from our rich list this year, and it's still 50% more than where we were 5 years ago. We're 4 times more where we were 10 years ago. 20 years ago, we're like 400 times more than that. So you shouldn't take this year in isolation. You need to look at it over a 5-year period and so on. So who's at the top of this year's list? Well, number one is you've got a guy who does bottled water, Zhong Shan. He's 68 years old. He's got just about 80 billion US dollars, which actually is a world record for a Chinese entrepreneur. Number two is a young guy. He's 39 years old. He's the founder of TikTok, and Zhang Yiming, and he's got the best part of 40 billion US dollars. And then number three is a guy who makes lithium batteries, sells them to pretty much all. He's the biggest battery maker in the world now, called Robin Zeng Yiqun. And he's 54 years old, and he's also got about 30 billion US dollars. Actually, these are the same top three as we had last year. But when we dig a little deeper, you can start seeing some trends coming out here. So let's take Zhong Shan, for example. He's a traditional industry. And this is a year when traditional industries have had a very big rise. And traditional industries and also B2B industries. So the likes of Zhong Shan, as I said, has broken world records as far as China's number ones go. Nobody's ever had that much personal wealth before. And we've also seen the likes of a traditional investor like Li Ka-shing from Hong Kong. He's 90-something years old now. And he overtook Pony Ma from Tencent. Well, so how can that be? There's a pork producer called Qing Yinling in Henan province. And he overtook Jack Ma. Again, who would have thought that in an age of digital transformation like 2022, you'd have a pork producer who's made it into the top 10, overtaking the likes of Jack Ma, who sort of built Alibaba and Ant and everything else. And another trend that's coming out is these young entrepreneurs. So, for example, the likes of Zhang Yiming. He's under 40. We found 94 individuals under 40, of which 36 are self-made. And Zhang Yiming, I suppose these under 40s, they have a different way of thinking. And the way I express it is it's a global way of thinking almost from the very beginning. So, for example, there's nobody else that's built a global brand like TikTok from China. And so Zhang Yiming, he started out, went straight in and built a global brand. Number two at the under 40s is a guy called Sky Xu from Shein. And they do a fast fashion brand. And again, he's literally built a business for the rest of the world. It does sell a little bit in China, but only absolutely minimal. And then number three is Zeng Yiqun, or Robin Zeng, I should say. And he's a B2B trader. So, he's selling batteries, not to the average person on the street, but to pretty much all the EV makers or the car makers around the world. And so that's also been a very significant trend this year that's coming up. And the other things that I think are worth your being aware of is, for example, which industries and sectors, and what are the trends that we're seeing here. So the main sector for the China Rich List this year is industrial products. They're number one, about 13% of the list is industrial products. People like Robin Zeng, as I was saying. Number two is real estate. Real estate, they've had a crisis here, I have to say. Number one in real estate is Elizabeth Yang from Country Garden. And her wealth dropped by 60% up until the middle of September. Actually, since then, it's even dropped a bit further. When we first did the rich lists, probably about 20 years ago, 50% of the list were real estate developers. But as we've gone through the years, it dropped down from 50 to 20 to 10, and now it's sort of 9.9% of the rich list are real estate developers. It's a trend that looks like it's continuing as well. And the third main sector for the rich listers is healthcare. And I suppose that's to be understood because, China's got an aging population. It's got a healthcare system which has been improving significantly over the last few years. And these are the healthcare entrepreneurs on the rich list are pushing China very much into a new direction as well. Now, a lot of people think about China as being the manufacturing hub of the world. But how many of these rich listers actually make money from exports, if you like? Very, very few. We estimated roughly less than 2% of our rich list, 2% of the 1,300 people are making the bulk of their money from exports. As I mentioned, TikTok or Shein and companies like them, okay, they really are doing a lot of exports. But for the vast majority, that's 98%, they're making money not from overseas, but from the domestic market. And I think that's probably something that's worth pointing out. What I always say is the stories of these people tell the story of the Chinese economy. There's been one story that absolutely, was a mind-boggling story, if you like. And there's a guy called Calvin Choi in Hong Kong. He's only 44 years old. And we talk about sometimes having a rich list a bit like a lift or an elevator, using an American expression. And in his case, he went IPO with a business in Hong Kong called AMT Digital, and with an IPO valuation of $1.5 billion US. Didn't really blip on many people's radars, but what happened after is blipped on pretty much the whole world's radar. Because over the next month, his company, the valuation went from 1.5 billion to a maximum of 500 billion US dollars. It became a top 10 most valuable company in the world and pushed Mr. Calvin Choi into a top 3 place on the China Rich List for 2 days. And then he went down again. And he's still on the list. He's just about at the cutoff, 700, 800 million US dollars. I mean, pretty reasonable nonetheless. But I have never in 20 years had a story like that of somebody who came in and pretty much totally unexpectedly and on the rich list went shooting up, spent 2 days at the top and then went back down again. And what an amazing story. And there are so many other fun stories from this list. And so I leave it with you this. If you want to truly understand what's going on in the economy today in China, this is a very good place to start. Look at the stories of these individuals on the China Rich List. They are the most successful entrepreneurs in China today, and work backwards. The stories of these people will give us insights into the state of the Chinese economy today and where it's going tomorrow. Okay, well look, thank you very much again from Chengdu. And then please, if you like, our Hengchang Shaofang premium baijiu brand, and you can support them as well. And so from here and all of us, thank you so much for watching and look forward to speaking again soon. Thank you.